So in the last episode, we've built up a communications array around Minmus, which you definitely should go check out on our collaboration channel, benthebest5. The link should be in the top right corner. So this is the second video of a collaboration with, like I said, benthebest5. And without further ado, we'll jump right into our launch here, as always. So, a quick overview about this collaboration. Me, Spaceship, and benthebest5 are doing a colonization of Minmus and building and sending up different payloads to Minmus. And without that, I'm going to give over the word to our guest today.
Greetings, g'day, I'm benthebest5, and yes, I did launch the first mission where we set up a comms relay so that we can scan the surface and find the best, resource-friendly location to build a base and also have contact with it at all times. And this is the base here, well, the first bit of the base. Who knows?
Exactly, correct. And in this very first video on the Spaceship YouTube channel, we start the construction of the Minmus base itself. So today's payload, as you probably have guessed already, is the first base module which will land on the surface of Minmus. As for the actually rather huge rocket you can see on the screen, it is primarily actually because of the humongous fairing, since building bases does require quite a lot of volume, so we went with one of the big 5-meter fairings. And here we have a nice.
Well, there's two options really.
Sorry?
To build a base, you can. There's two options really for building a base: either a big rocket or lots of smaller rockets,
yeah.
and then assembling in orbit.
Exactly. Or of course we could, in theory, assemble it on the surface itself, but that sometimes can be rather tedious, or at least that's my experience with it.
Well, especially because driving on Minmus is not easy,
oh, no.
just because there's no nice atmosphere.
No, not at all. And you're very prone to flipping over, even though that's not that big of a deal because of the low gravity. It still can be rather annoying.
It can be.
Yes, and of course you do have to, if you're docking the crafts together, you do have to think about the height at which you place the docking ports and align them, and then you sometimes are stuck with some remaining infrastructure like wheels and things that then start to look weird.
That is true.
Actually, I didn't really want to talk about this, but there is actually another project coming up rather soon on this channel, which is exactly this. So building a big base and docking it together on the surface. But you'll figure that out if you subscribe to this channel in not in too far distant future. Okay, but now we are deploying the the big payload fairing, and now we can see the base itself. And you're probably wondering, what is that huge orange tank on the right hand side right now? This is actually to balance the base out so that the center of mass is more in line with the center of thrust from the lifter rocket. Otherwise we'd flip around all the time, and that would be rather annoying.
And launching it sideways like that, is that just to make the fairing smaller?
Well, making the fairing smaller wasn't possible, since the base is of course in one direction rather high, so that makes it a bit more difficult. I mean, because the fairing has to encompass at least the very top of the top part of the base, otherwise it would be aerodynamically very unstable.
Probably rip apart, to be honest.
Oh yeah, but however, we have launched a lot of really ridiculous payloads in KSP so far. That's definitely a very forgiving aerodynamic model.
Yes. I mean, the good thing about Kerbal Space Program is, if something is fast enough, then aerodynamics don't matter, because you're outside the atmosphere before it burns up.
Oh yeah, that's right. And now, thanks to the video editing power, we are jumping off...
The magic of video editing.
Exactly. Jumping straight to the Minmus transfer burn. So, if you're still wondering how to get into a good Minmus encounter and get to Minmus, you have another reason to check Ben's video out, since he really showed that in a very beautiful manner, and we're just skipping it here.
Yes, well, the good thing about a new saving Kerbal Space Program, you actually start off with a launch window to, well, absolutely everywhere. You can from a new save, you can launch to any of the planets or any of the moons like Minmus without having to make adjustments. It's
Oh, really?
it's a very ideal. Yeah, that's actually the condition that the world spawns in it. From my experience, at least, it's always spawned with an exact transfer window.
Oh, cool. Actually, never realized that after so many years of playing KSP. That's good to know. So quickly up on the footage here, we ran out in our transfer stage of out of fuel, which is no biggie since we have of course the next stage, and we detached that one now. And actually you'll just see in a second that I'm a bit of a douchebag since I'm activating all the engines, the LV99 Terrier engines to continue our transfer burn, but I actually forgot to detach this big orange tank since right now it's just dead weight. We drained the fuel out of it, and we don't have to correct our center of mass anymore since the center of thrust is going straight through the center of mass thanks to this sky crane like contraption on top of it. So I'm going to jettison it a bit later on, so that's kind of me not paying too much attention.
I mean, the good thing about that though is tanks once they're empty weigh almost nothing, so it wasn't as bad as it could have been.
Exactly, that's true, that's true. But still, some Delta V savings are always appreciated, even though it
Yeah.
doesn't really matter. We have more than enough fuel, since the goal of it
I mean,
is landing the fully fueled refueling base actually on the surface.
once I did finish a mission and I had 9 meters a second of delta V left, and that was,
Definitely.
pencil-like precision.
Oh, that's always a great feeling. I'm not quite sure what
Yeah.
my closest was, but I can remember in the very beginning I was like drifting and going into the very high atmosphere around Kerbin, like really a humongous amount of time because I ran out of fuel, just shy of being able to completely deorbit the craft, like something 55 kilometers or 58 kilometers, and then passing through the atmosphere multiple times until we're finally getting back down. Okay, so right now we arrived at Minmus. We actually in a orbit, not a circular orbit, but that doesn't really matter because we just have to wait until Minmus now rotates around so that we are that our orbit actually passes over the landing zone, which is there marked by a nice marker, which we were able to kind of identify this pretty much ideal landing position thanks to the already like to the present satellite that is a scanner satellite, and we scanned obviously the surface.
Yes, that's because we were able to. We decided that putting something on a flat was a good idea, just simply because flats are nice and easy to land on, and that's great for something like an SSTO, which has landing gear and can move across surfaces. And yeah, and that's actually the flat which has the best quality ore, which means that you'll get the best mining out of it. So that's why we chose that landing site.
Yes, exactly. And but if you're trying to dock future crafts, kind of additional modules to the base, making that doing that on the flats is a lot easier than if you're in this
Yeah.
slopey terrain where you have mountains, ridges, and things like that to still think about it. And obviously, who doesn't love the flats of Minmus, right?
I must admit, though, docking has become a lot easier since the robotics update, which is quite a welcome thing.
Oh
Just
yes.
simply because you can move the heights of docking ports all of a sudden.
Actually, I'm going to be quite honest. I haven't thought about that for a very long time, even after the update. I just then realized, actually, when scrolling through Reddit, that someone built a crane to stack an entire base, and then I thought about it. Oh, we can use that to make the docking a lot easier. So,
Yes. Well, I've never really used uh, robotic parts for anything cool. I've mainly only used them ever for practical stuff like solar arrays and and like setups and like folding probes and stuff,
Yes,
just because they're really useful for making that stuff work in ways that weren't really possible before. So that's where I really think that they come to their element and are really useful.
yes, I totally agree with that. You, in my opinion, you have actually like pretty much two options to use the robotic parts. Either you go and do something really creative, or you do something kind of useful, like you said, solar arrays or folding out of different parts of a probe or something like that.
I mean, that's how I was able to. I used folding parts for my big probe. That was how I was able to fit into a smaller area. Is it just had full alarms that carried all of the things which folded up,
Yeah, that's practical.
and your solar panels they're all held on by robotics.
Yes, exactly. So as you can see right now, towards getting closer to the landing, um, so you can already have a good glimpse of the base itself. We have on the one hand side really stacked up solar panel array, which will unfold in just a few minutes. I think that's like 1 minute from now approximately. And on the other hand, the mining drills, which will obviously mine for drill for the ore that will then use to refuel different crafts here. But this is exactly kind of the useful part of the robotics that you can use to make things more useful. Wow, that really made a lot of sense.
Made sense to me. It's yes, an example of the useful side of robotics we've been discussing for the last few minutes.
Yes, kind of funny how we talk about robotics, even though it isn't really focused on robotics.
Well, I mean, we need a topic to talk about.
That's for sure, because this landing sequence is actually taking quite a lot of time.
Yep.
Because usually on my videos I cut straight to the last 10-15 seconds of it, and now I decide let's leave it in for a bit longer, because this more resembles the style of your videos, so your viewers are a bit more already used to this sort of.
Well, I use the magic of 5 times speed
Oh
and
yeah, 5 times.
3 times speed.
I really, actually for me, it's 4 times speed, the magic number that I usually use. But anyways, landing on Minmus is rather easy. It's actually one of the easiest bodies to land on. You have such low gravity, a lot of beautiful flats like this one
The
here.
low gravity is how I actually managed to kill my first ever Kerbal.
Oh really?
You see, I was doing a landing, right? And I touched down at like, I don't know, 4 meters per second, which should be a nice safe landing height, right?
Mhm.
Except it bounced down on the landing gear,
Mhm.
and the landing gears have springs, and it actually sprung it up higher. And it kept on bouncing higher and higher because of the low gravity, which and then eventually hit so hard that the landing struts broke, which then meant it just the entire thing just smashed.
Oh yeah, that.
So that's one thing about its tiny gravity is you gotta make sure that you're hitting it at like 0 meters per second every single time you do a landing.
Yes, otherwise you're going to bounce around until you explode. But yeah. And there we just got rid of the sky crane so that it's not going to clog up the area, and we can totally just blow it up. But
Make it look cool,
exactly.
inflate it.
And here we're going into the first step of deployment, deploying the radiators and our antenna, as well as a scanner array on the top of the small little tower. And in the second sequence we'll deploy our drills to the side and then deploy them into the surface and the two folding solar array arms. And with that, the first section of the base itself is ready for operations, and these two silver colored arms on the two sides there will help different crafts to refuel if they can't fit into one of the docking ports, onto
Yes.
the regular docking ports pretty much.
Great. Plus they're maneuverable.
Exactly, so that makes it really easy to attach some different crafts. So on this note, I
Mhm.
really hope you have enjoyed this the second episode of this collaboration, and
Yep.
the next episode will be obviously on Ben's channel.
My channel.
Exactly, so
Yep.
there are definitely some links on the screen that you can click on. So thanks very much for watching,
Yeah.
and until next time.
Thanks for watching. See ya.